I have always made bad choices in life. Bad choices when it comes to friends. Bad choices when it comes to cars. Bad choices when it comes to restaurants. I can't count the times I've gotten food poisoning. You would think I would learn my lesson and stop eating out. My latest series of bad choices landed me a job. I don't want to recall what got me here, but I'm a mailman now. My uniform arrived in the mail. It's a soft blue color that's dark and yet a light tone at once. It's pretty comfy and they tossed in a nice bomber style jacket. Having a job handed to you might be a nice thing. I should be thankful, but this job was dangerous and I would die if I refused it. I was standing in front of an office building where I've been told my training will be held. A blank swipe card to get inside the building came with my uniform. I was pacing, putting off going inside. Even though the morning was chilly, I was sweating. I did not want to go inside. I did not want to start this job. Though, I fear what would happen to me if I ditched. Gathering all my courage, I swiped the card and went through the now unlocked door. Regret filled my chest when the door closed, locking behind me. The room I was standing inside was pretty bare. Off-white walls and off-white carpet. Fluorescent lights hummed way above. The room was empty aside from a woman sitting at a fold-out table. She didn't even look up to greet me. She just kept her eyes glued to a magazine she flipped through, looking very bored. I walked up to her, sweat still sticking my shirt to my back. She didn't look at me. Instead, she sat, chin in her hand, snapping at her gum. I started, then found it subtly impossible to speak. Her eyes darted up at me, and I took a step back in spite of myself. She looked like any pretty receptionist you could find anywhere, aside from her yellow eyes and mouth that was far too long for her face. "Your partner's gonna be here in a second. Got any smokes?" She asked me in a raspy voice. I shook my head and she lost any interest in me. I was hired as a mailman, but if I was a normal mailman, I would have to only worried about bad road conditions and mean dogs. This was not any normal job. The mail I was going to deliver was going to be to supernatural creatures. I know it's a silly idea. I guess Bigfoot gets mail sometimes. Who knew? Knock knock. I raised my head to the voice, and a knocking sound on the other side of the room. A door I hadn't noticed yet opened, and now peeked the head of who I thought would be my new work partner. I kinda didn't like the type of person who would cheerfully say knock knock before opening a door. This guy might be too much for me to handle. He didn't notice my frown and he smiled over at us. He was wearing the same uniform as me, but it fit much differently. He was at least 7 feet tall and built like a tank. He covered the distance to us quickly, taking my hand into both of his in an excited shake. His kind smiling face did not at all match the intimidating body of his. While he shook my hand, I could not take my eyes off the top of his head. I had to strain my neck to see, but my mind refused to process it. This big, strong man had dog ears? Fluffy, sandy brown dog ears standing up on the top of his head. Scruffy hair covered what normal human ears should be. I finally tore my eyes away to notice the other details about him. The mental shock of seeing such cute ears on a tall, buff man made me not notice his legs. His uniform pants had been rolled up to the knees to accommodate dog-shaped legs. They were covered in the same sandy brown fur of his ears. His paws had claws that looked big and sharp enough to cut bricks in half. So not as cute as his ears. His teeth also looked terribly sharp. His hands were human enough, but his nails ended in claws. He was being very careful not to nick me during our handshake. I knew my new coworker wasn't going to be human, but I wasn't expecting, well, this. "You're a dog?" I asked, not being able to stop myself. "What's a dog?" His smile never faded, and he looked so honest in his question I almost laughed. The woman snapped her gum so loudly, and made the both of us look at her and then get down to business. Or at least try to. "I'm My partner said his name, but because he wasn't human, his name was not meant for humans to say. It sounded like a garble of growls, and after a few minutes of me trying to repeat it, we realized it just wasn't possible. Rufus, the woman said, not looking up at us. Oh right, my human name is Rufus. You're Toby, right? I'm glad to be working with you. Rufus said with a big smile. If his teeth weren't so sharp, it would be a nice expression. His type is the only kind that is alright with working humans. Here, you need to deliver this letter to Mr. Chatter. As she spoke, she took a red envelope from under her magazine for Rufus to take. The tall man thanked her and safely tucked the envelope away into his jacket. He was ready to go. I wasn't. I was still a little confused about the whole thing. Rufus noticed my expression and smiled again, trying to look friendly. We are going to the maze today, he started. The maze? I asked slowly. To get ready for my odd job, I spent the last week reading up on cryptids, supernatural things, and any other kind of information along those lines. I didn't believe most of it, but with the dog man in front of me, I should really start reconsidering what I believed. In those hours of looking, I didn't come across anything called the maze before. How to describe it? It's, a lot of the same rooms. It has floors, so to speak. The light floor, that is just a bunch of rooms and hallways, and the dark second floor. I think it's a different version of this place for different people, but we're going to an easy, safer version of it. We'll be sticking to the first floor because you are human. The maze may be tough on you. Your uniform protects you from most things. The monsters on the first floor won't attack you or really be able to see you. Mr. Chatter is on the first floor. He might look a little scary, but is really friendly. Oh, right, you are human, so maybe not. Anyway, what I'm trying to say is you shouldn't worry because we're mailmen. The whole don't shoot the messenger applies to us. I know Rufus was trying to be friendly and ease my worries about my job and where we were going. And I had been really pretty stressed about the whole thing. From the small amount I had heard where we were headed, I didn't like it at all. I should really be worrying about what fresh hell I was walking into. However, I got distracted. Rufus turned a little when he was speaking and I caught a glimpse of it. He had a tail. I could not handle that. It was covered fluffy thing that was too damn cute and I wanted to scream. This man looked like he could eat a tank for breakfast and he had the nerve to have a cute fluffy tail. I could not deal with the juxtaposition of this tough appearance and cute tail. Pick one or the other. You can't have both. I hated it. He misread my expression as still being worried. He slapped a large comforting hand on my shoulder and laughed. You will do fine. With my nose, we won't get lost. You don't have to interact with any other humans you find lost inside. Your job is to deliver mail, not to save humans. We get in a lot of trouble if we go outside our job duties. But you're doing so great already. You already took one step inside of the maze, so what's a few more? I nearly jumped and looked around the empty room. It felt odd, even so. I didn't think I had walked into a supernatural area. This is part of the maze? I asked, still looking around. We call them the Zero Rooms. It's a neutral area for meetings. They can be controlled when they appear and who can be allowed inside. It's pretty neat! I didn't share Rufus' excitement. I guess he was right. I had already taken a few steps into this world and had a big man to protect me. Human or not, I might be alright. I was feeling a bit better about this whole thing. I followed behind Rufus and to the door on the other side of the room. Before we left, Rufus turned the address to the woman behind us. Please pick up some eggs for dinner tonight, he called out to her. When I looked at him confused, he gave me a kind smile. She's my daughter. Third marriage. I did a triple take. Those two could not possibly be related. I didn't have time to ask about it. We were through the door and inside the so-called maze. All my fear came back and crashing down. The place looked a lot bigger than the version of the room we had just been inside moments before. I turned to look behind us to see the door we came inside had disappeared. No turning back now. The first few rooms I could see into had some same white wallpaper, but the floor was hardwood someone dumped white paint over. It looked like the rooms kept going, but a few rooms in, the poorly painted wood turned into carpet. I followed behind my new coworker, looking around, straining to hear anything. I thought the creatures would be around, and I really didn't want to run into them, protected by my uniform or not. I suddenly wondered what that meant. The fabric didn't really feel extra durable or thick. I didn't think it would save me if anything with claws decided to make me a meal. So I decided to ask for a little more about the job I had been forced into. So, how do these uniforms work? I asked. Oh! Rufus looked over at me with his friendly face. This guy really was like an excited dog. They're really special. I don't understand the process of how they're made, but I heard each has some of the Silver King's hair in it. So it's like, super tough. What's a good example for a human? Like, a bulletproof vest? If you were shy, you wouldn't even feel it. It also keeps some lesser creatures that would do you harm from even being able to see you. That doesn't mean you're invincible, though. There are some creatures that can tear through the uniforms, but it's your first day. You won't come across them, I hope. That last bit was said so softly, I almost didn't hear him. I had met the Silver King, and he was the reason why I was stuck in this damn job. But he was the big deal in the supernatural worlds. It was a bad idea to drop his name, and I didn't really want to think about how we met. I sorta understood how the uniforms worked now. Even with the comforting idea of a god-level bulletproof vest, I was still scared walking around that horrible place we were in. As we walked, I saw the walls that had marked spots, messages from people who had gotten lost. They used whatever they could to write them, from what I guess was nail polish, to scratching away at the wallpaper. I hadn't heard any signs of life beyond the carpet-muffled sound of our own footsteps and, without any noise to cover it, the oddly disconcerting hum of the lights above. Rufus knew where we were going even though everything looked the same. But as we kept walking, I started to see more messages and stains on the ground I feared was dry blood. I didn't want to think about who or what left those stains behind. I stopped in front of the wall with frantic writing in a faded Sharpie. It was a name and address, that was all. I don't know why it got me to stop. There were plenty of names written, and we passed by many old pleas for help. I couldn't help but wonder about the people who had died here, or who was still lost, and their loved ones who was waiting for them to come home. I had my phone in my pocket. Without realizing, I had taken it out to take a photo of the message I was staring at. It's best if you don't. I froze when I heard Rufus speak. There was a sudden tension between us. He was telling the truth. It's best if I don't let myself go down the route of trying to figure out what was lost. Nothing good would come of it. I turned off my phone and returned it back to my pocket. I think he felt bad for making it awkward. He kept darting his eyes back at me, clearly trying to think of something to say. You know, things have changed a lot since I last came by. Because this place adjusts to human expectations, it's never the same twice. Two people could be right next to each other, but see something different. The last time I heard it smelled so much of chemicals and bleach, it was hard to get around. But now, it's pretty nice. I can understand why some creatures have been moving here recently. Lots of space. Free food. Rufus was trying to fill the silence by chatting away. When he mentioned the free food part, he gestured to a stain on the floor we had just walked by. We had been walking by an increasing amount of them. The one he nodded his head towards looked fresher than the others had. I looked up at him. face twisted in horror over what he was implying. I keep forgetting you're human. That was very insensitive of me. We decided to walk in silence after that. I just wanted to find whatever Mr. Chatter was and get the hell out of here. Even though we didn't see any bodies, it was becoming very clear people had died in this space. I hadn't heard or seen anything, and Rufus had to name a big bad monster to look out for. So, what was killing all of these people, taking their bodies and leaving their belongings behind? I walked around the copper-colored stains on the ground, but found it slowly get harder to walk around them. I didn't really want us to get to the point of where the floor was entirely that dried blood color. I soon found out I didn't have any choice. Because I had my phone turned off, I didn't have any idea about how much time had passed. It felt like we walked for at least an hour, getting deeper into the endless twists and turns. To my surprise, we came across the door. I had very much hoped we arrived when we needed to deliver the envelope. It was not meant to be. We'd still had some walking ahead of us. Rufus stopped in front of the door and paused before opening it. He looked down at me, his expression in deep thought. "Do you know any songs?" It was such a weird response out of the blue. Still, I should go along with what he said to keep me safe in a strange place. Maybe. Why? I looked around, trying to see any changes. We were still alone, surrounded by the trace of death. "This room may be a bit upsetting for people who have not adjusted to certain smells. I find singing distracts me enough to get through it. Well, doing two things at once is hard for me. I'm not sure about your kind, though." Rufus really seemed like the type to not be good at multitasking. It was nice of him to take my newness to the job into consideration and warn me ahead of time. I didn't know if singing would help, and I honestly was embarrassed to sing in front of anyone. I should still trust him and at least try. But my damn brain for not functioning in that moment. The only song I could think of was some old animated movie I watched in my death of my childhood. I don't remember the name of the movie. For some reason my brain decided to only remember the song. It was a short one. I felt my face flush from embarrassment. There was no way I was gonna sing in this situation. I had thought Rufus was dumb, yet a nice guy. Still, with the method unknown to myself, he not only convinced me to sing, but we went through the short song twice. I was surprised he was smart enough to remember the lyrics after hearing it once. It made me feel a little prepared for whatever was behind the door. Rufus didn't even pause in his singing when he opened the door and the smell hit us. My stomach fluttered as I started to feel queasy, but oddly enough the singing helped. I took one step into the room, and all the willpower drained from me completely. The room was small. It would take me 10 steps to get the other side and the door. Those few steps were too much for me. The entire room had been soaked with blood. I could almost handle the rotting smell, but added sense of sight made my entire body freeze. Because the room was the same color, I had to notice a shape vaguely resembling a person at first. It was a mass of gore, and I squinted. I could make out a human feature like limbs and a head. I didn't want to squint. I didn't want to look. I squeezed my eyes shut and took one step forward. Rufus was still singing on the other side, so if I followed his voice, I would be fine. The massive gore was in the corner. I wouldn't trip on it if I just walked straight and towards to my coworker. I tried to join into the song, but only managed a few weak words. So far, I hadn't been in any actual danger. I hadn't seen any creatures aside from Rufus. He did his best to comfort me and tell me even if something did attack me, I would be safe. Even knowing all that, I couldn't handle that room. Every step I took made my skin crawl and stomach turn. The blood stuck to my shoes, and when I stepped down, my foot slid a little on the soaking wet floor. My hands started to shake and I shoved them in my pocket, trying to hide how scared I was. Uh, hey, let's go. Hey, let's go. I muttered to myself the part of the song. Between my voice and Rufus, I heard a small whisper coming from behind me. So small. I didn't think I had heard anything at first. That thing in the corner couldn't be alive. Nothing could be alive in that room. I was stressed out and hearing things. I raised my voice, trying to drown it out, but it trembled. I'm happy as can be. From how close Rufus sounded, I knew I was only a step or two out from this nightmare room. I froze again when I felt something brush against my ankle. Slowly, fingers wrapped around to see where my pant leg stopped. The grip was weak. Every nerve in my body was set on edge, and I felt something wet soak through my sock where the hand had grabbed me. I heard that plea for help once more. With a burst of strength, I shot out of the room, kicking off what was taking hold of me. I heard Rufus close the door. I collapsed against the wall, shaking violently and tears threatening to fall. I curled up, head on my knees trying to calm myself down. So what if my uniform was magic and could protect me from bullets? I wasn't even being protected from any mental trauma from this place. Rufus was nice enough to not say anything to me as I collected myself. I bet he would have given me as much time as needed. However, we were on a time limit that I wasn't aware of. The red envelopes are time sensitive. If we don't deliver them fast enough, they explode. Your uniform could protect you, but it might destroy the room we're in and cause you to be lost somewhere between rooms, so, it's best if we get going. I swear, we're really close. Only 2 more rooms? Staring at my now bloody sneakers, it took everything I had to stand back up. Only 2 more rooms. I had to do this to get the hell out of here. To my surprise, I found our surroundings back to normal. Well, as normal as this place gets. The walls had gone back to the bare off-white without writing or stains. If it stayed like that, I could handle 2 more rooms. True to his word, we passed through 2 more hallways and into the last room. It looked all the same to me. I was glad to have him as my guide, and in that moment, I wondered why I was even with him. I mean, Rufus could clearly do this on his own. Maybe this was my shadowing training day? Some places did make you watch someone for the day. It was the only thing I could think of. Mr. Chatter should be right behind that door. Just knock and he'll show up. Rufus told me when he entered the last room. It was a dead end, and the first dead end I had seen in this place. On one wall had drawn outline of a door, but no real way out. Even though we were so close to the end, anything Rufus was saying had been lost to me because I had seen her. A little girl no older than 10 frantically struggling to free her leg that had faced through the floor. She was dirty and looked like she'd been stuck here for a long time. The poor thing looked scared to death. She was struggling so hard and bending her leg in a way that looked painful. It gave a bit of give. I thought if she had a little bit more strength, she could pull herself free. Rufus saw me looking at her and he smiled. She's stuck between floors. She's actually on floor 2, but with her leg stuck here, it looks like she's on this floor. Pretty neat, huh? This place works in such weird ways. Anyways, let's... I didn't let him finish. I just couldn't leave her. I ran forwards and wrapped my arms around her to try to pull her free. The moment I took a hold of her, my surroundings changed. I was no longer in the dull yet safe area, but inside a place so dark, I could only see because of a little road flare burning away a few feet away from us. The poor girl was screaming, trying to get me off of her. I don't know why, but the moment I took a hold of her, it transported me to a different floor. One much darker and dangerous. I'm trying to help. It's alright. I told her, frantically trying to calm her down. I didn't really blame her for freaking out because someone had suddenly grabbed her. With my help, I got some of her leg free. I wasn't fast enough though. I felt something hit my back hard. I didn't want to look behind me to see what was clawing at my back. Rufus was right. The uniforms did work. The thing was a mass of dark fur and teeth. It snagged the fabric, but it could not cut through it to get to my tender flesh. I saw hundreds of eyes glittering in the darkness looking at us. A rumbled growl came, and I nearly gave up on everything right then. I felt a sudden flash of pain on my cheek. The creature on my back had cut me in its struggle of trying to get to my back. In that moment, I realized the fault of the uniforms. It only was protecting what it was covering. My head was fair game for any creature that came out. I had to get us both out of here and fast. The girl had stopped struggling, and now it was only me trying to get her free. I felt a strong grip on my arm and I screamed. Rufus suddenly appeared. He tore the creature from my back, tossing it into the darkness with one hand.
Let go of her! If you keep touching her, you'll stay on this floor and you'll die in a few minutes!
I knew I was making a mistake, but I shook my head. I couldn't leave the little girl behind. Dark shapes swooped in. I saw light shining off their teeth as they tried to attack us. Rufus was able to swat them away, but with his hands were getting cut from the sharp claws. He easily could have pulled me from the girl. Instead of forcing me, he wanted me to make the right choice. He was such a kind person, trying to talk me down from a mistake.
You need to let her go. She's already dead.
That couldn't be true. She had been moving for a few seconds before. If I could pull her free, we could get her out of here. My eyes became unfocused and filled with tears. I could only see the girl's limp arms dangling and a sparkling bracelet reflecting off the road flare. A sound made me jerk my head up. A grunting roar cut through the darkness. Rufus reacted to it by kicking his leg into the dark while holding onto my arm. I couldn't see what his leg contacted into. I only heard a horrible crunching, ripping sound as I watched in horror as his leg kept moving, now missing everything below the knee. He had rolled his pants up so his uniform didn't protect him from whatever cut it off. Then I knew I had to let the poor girl go, or else we were both gonna die. I let go of her and I grabbed a hold of him, and a second later I felt a sensation of falling. My entire body felt like I was being tossed around even though we were standing still. A sudden crushing force made me collapse onto my knees. It felt like I'd just been in a car crash. I couldn't move for a few minutes. When I opened my eyes, I saw we were back in the dead-end room. The girl was gone. Her bracelet left behind on the floor behind me. Rufus was in bad shape. A pool of blood started around where his leg had been cut off. His eyes were closed and I feared he was dead, and it was all my fault. I should have just listened to him. My job was to deliver mail, nothing else. If we had just finished the job and got the hell out of here, I was certain I would be killed for my poor performance. I only took this damn job because the only other option were thinly veiled threats of death. Rufus opened his eyes, looking too weak to even sit up. I sat, waiting for him to yell at me, to blame me for everything. I'm sorry, I found myself unable to speak through the lump forming in my throat.
It's alright. You're only human after all.
He was smiling at me. I would much rather have him get angry. His kindness cut like a knife in that moment. He reached inside his jacket pocket to bring out the envelope we still had to deliver. All this trouble for such a small thing. All I had to do was take it and knock on the drawn door. I felt too weak and so close to tears I nearly couldn't stand. His kind smile encouraged me to take it from him and walk over and knock on the wall. I took a few steps back after I did, terrified over what would happen. After I knocked, the fake door turned into a real one. I swung open in its own pitch-black room beyond. I clutched the envelope in front of me, staring into the darkness, waiting. A second slowly crept past. I started to hear a faint sound. A chattering, clicking noise that seemed like it was getting closer. I took another step back. Suddenly, the entire door was filled by a massive face slamming against it so hard, it cracked the frame around it. I tripped over my own feet screaming and falling hard on my ass. Somehow, I kept the entire envelope in hand. My throat closed because I was so scared. I couldn't make another noise. I couldn't move. I only sat with that thing right in front of me. It was a human-looking face, so large it took up the entire door. The chattering sound was coming from its mouth opening and snapping shut at a frightening speed. For a moment, I almost started to chatter my teeth together with it. It kept pressing, trying to fit its face through, trying to get to me. Teeth noisily coming towards me, inch by inch. I don't know where I got the courage from. I stood up, legs shaking. I slowly took a few careful steps closer. The nose was rattling me down to my bones. I held out the envelope as far away from my body as I could muster. I closed my eyes, unable to handle seeing such a creature. Both of us inched closer to each other until finally, its massive set of teeth closed over the corner of the envelope and it stopped. The silence made me open my eyes. The creature known as Mr. Chatter had finally stopped snapping its mouth. Slowly, the red envelope started to burn away. When it was nothing but ash on the ground, the creature opened its mouth again, but this time to give out a bellowing, awful laugh. And for a lack of a better way to put it, its entire head collapsed in on itself. The massive sucked into a pinpoint in space so quickly that in a blink of an eye, it was gone. The door slammed shut, disappearing so it was just a plain wall again. I had just finished the job, even if I had no idea what the hell just happened. A small click made me jump. With relief, I saw another door had appeared, this one with a place to swipe my blank card I had received. I knew this was an opening to the 0 room and the way out. The problem was dragging Rufus with me. I couldn't support his weight and he couldn't walk. I turned to look where I left him, only to see something else was in his place. A dog stood on 3 legs looking at me. He wore the same jacket Rufus had on, and he had 2 light spots in his fur that looked very similar to what Rufus's eyebrows looked like. He was that Shiba Inu breed everyone online loved. Well, that solved the problem. I knew he could walk out on 3 legs, but I picked up the dog and pressed my face into his soft fur, tears threatening to overtake me. "I'm sorry," I told him again, truly meaning it. I only got a bark as a reply. The 0 room looked exactly like the other one. The receptionist did a double take at us. She got up and took Rufus from me, looking him over.
"I won a bet with my siblings. They all thought you would have died. Good job finishing the job."
I was a little shocked that she wasn't angry at me either. I had nearly gotten her father killed after all. "Was the other girl your twin?" It was her turn to look a little surprised. She was dressed in the same clothing as the first girl we met, but there was a kinder air about her. I don't know how I knew it, but I was certain this girl was a different one from the other one I met.
"Something like that. Anyway, you're done for the day. We'll send you a message when another job comes in. Now, get out."
She jabbed the thumb over her shoulder and towards the door. The sharp gesture felt like it was also jabbed into my chest. I scurried out, Rufus giving a small bark as goodbye. I never had been so thankful being done with the day of work. It felt like hours had passed and I was just exhausted. I blinked in the morning light and tightened my jacket against the cool air. I had came out of a building different from the one I arrived at earlier. This one was a couple of minute walk from my place. I took my phone out to check what day it was, only to my confusion, I had saw it had been only gone for 2 minutes. Everything that had happened only took 2 minutes real world time. I'm not proud to admit it, but when I got home, I cried harder than I ever had in my entire life. I don't think I'm the only one who has cried like that ever their first day of work. I truly dread when I'll get another message for a new job. Even so, I made up my mind to take it. I owe it to my first partner. He gave up his leg for me to survive. To pay him back for it, I had to deliver mail. An odd situation to be in. I only really had myself to blame for it though.